But I'd like to submit to you something else. There is a part of me that wonders if Jesus didn't weep because he knew what was about to happen. Now, let me see if I can explain this. Lazarus was dead. And in my understanding, the Bible teaches me, like I said a few minutes ago, that the moment Lazarus breathed his last breath, he was escorted into the portals of glory. And I don't know about you, but I'd like to picture Lazarus saying, Abraham, is that you? Is that you, Daniel? David, is that you? Solomon, I've always wanted to meet you. Isaac, thank you for what you did. And all of these great men and women of God were coming up to the newbie. And they were saying, tell us about Jesus. Tell us what he's like on earth. How is he? What did he teach you? We want to know about Jesus. Tell us about him. And Lazarus has an audience. And he's letting everybody know who Jesus was. Let me tell you guys, there's no better friend to have than Jesus. And Lazarus is glowing as he's telling all of these great men and women of God all about this man named Jesus. And for 4 days, he was walking the streets of gold. And he got to see some of the greatest visual things we'll ever encounter. He was in the best place ever known to man. And he was spending time with God himself. And I'd like to submit to you this morning that Jesus possibly wept because he knew he would have to call Abraham back down to stay a little bit longer. He knew that Abraham would possibly want to stay up there. But he would need to, in order for God to be glorified, he would need to raise him back up. And the moment was coming where he was going to have to say, Abraham, I've got to go. Isaac, Jacob, I've got to go. They're calling me. It's the voice of Jesus. I don't want to go back, but I've got to go back. I'd like to submit to you that Jesus was weeping because Lazarus was going to leave heaven to come back to this place where we're just visitors. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, boy, he really loved him. And then some of them said, could not this man who opened the eyes of the blind have kept his friend from dying? And Jesus, again groaning in himself, came to the tomb. It was a cave and a stone lay against it, and Jesus says, take away the stone. And Martha says, I don't think you want to do that. I don't think you should do that, because he's been in there for 4 days. And if you move that stone, I don't advise that. Can you see Martha giving Jesus advice? Jesus said to her, did I not tell you already that if you simply believed, you would see the glory of God? And she said, all right. They took the stone away from the place where the dead man was lying. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. And I know that you always hear me, but because of these people standing by, I said this, that they may believe that you sent me. Now, when he said these things, he cried in a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. Lazarus in heaven is gone. Man, this is nice up here. 3 square meals a day. Get to walk with my buddies now. Lazarus! All right already, I'm coming. I'd like to submit to you as well that if he had not called the name of Lazarus, graves would have been popping everywhere. But he says, Lazarus, come forth. And out of the tomb comes the man Lazarus, floating. Well, the Bible doesn't tell us. They would wrap the body in this cloth, and they would tie his legs, and they would tie his hands, and they would put a cloth around his face. It would be impossible for him to walk in his own strength. So I'm here to tell you that the Bible gives me the understanding that out of the grave comes Lazarus. Ooh. And as great as that is, the experience of Lazarus is a simple but good illustration of what happens to a sinner when he trusts Jesus as his Savior. Because you and I were dead in our sins and our transgressions. But one day Jesus says, come forth. And though Lazarus was dead and his body began to decay, he was raised from the dead by the power of God and given a new life and lifted out of the grave, just like you and just like me. But here's the problem. The first thing Jesus says is loose him and let him go. I'm here to tell you that many of us are still being held back by our grave clothes. Those things that we like to do, those things that we were involved in, those habits that we have, and those friends that we have, and those things that we just used to do because it was something that we did. I'm here to tell you. Jesus said, loose him and let him go.